Greetings, greetings, greetings. Let's give our honor to Source, to the Most High for making everything possible. Oh, I gotta position my phone right because it will overheat right there by the sun. By this window. I'm just getting more and more confirmation. Where do I want to go with this video? It's like my sinuses. I'm letting shit go. Like a lot of stuff. Not just mentally, emotionally. But, did I already say that? Yeah, let's give honor to the Most High. Whatever you subscribe to Source, the Creator, ancestors known and unknown for the highest good of all. I feel like when I'm doing this video, I have videos all the way into August, y'all. Like all the way into August. And this one I'm making, where are we at now? Where we at now? I'm just laughing because somebody trying to say to me, but it's like a catalyst almost. What is it? I think it's like mid-February. Yeah. Like this, how much I've been. It's like I'm preparation. What is it? February, March, April, May, June, July, August. That's wow. There was a point in time where I used to like press myself and try to get like content out like immediately, bro. Now it's coming so, and this comes with like mastering, like now it comes so effortless to where I know I'm doing this in purpose. I know I'm doing this for it's like preparation for a purpose. Like getting this content out. And it's like preparation for what I'm preparing myself for, like in the depths. And in relation to that, it brings up the awareness around what I wanted to speak about is letting everything unfold. Everyone gets what they want. How does she say that? Akashic Prince. Everyone gets what they want. It's all about the intention. I literally had a message come in right before this. And usually I would be afraid to see, but I can feel the energy around it, but it's like I'm no longer there. What I mean by that is it's just preparation. Like a lot of things when it's not even that it hasn't seemed chaotic. It just, the noise becomes so much more like from a distance. Like I'm noticing things unfolding to where when you're going through the transition of things, how things are unfolding, it's not, the same energy is not met with what you've grown through, the same energy, it's like, as you notice, like me personally going through cycles of things that were what I assumed that would be normal, I no longer normalized. So I'm sitting here like, that's just not only just the boundaries, but how certain things want to pull you or can attach itself. And I'm realizing like the false perception of even the illusion of even people who wanted to have control. And then taking back your power, you realize like they had no control no matter what. And this is how I learned to detach myself from not even just the outcome, but now have even more confidence and faith in myself to know that everything is going to be all right. I did make a previous video, but it just wasn't in alignment. I still could post it though, but I was talking about at a time while I grew up. I gotta go check this tea because my sinuses. At a time while I grew up, my mindset, again, being around certain people, my mindset would be so focused on the worst possible outcome. That's why the mind is so vital to know, like if it's something you say you want, you'll get it. Everyone gets what they want. And to go deeper into that, whoopsie. To go deeper into that has a lot to do with when I say everyone gets what they want, they do. But it also reveals the intentions behind whomever through that process. And this is the thing where I feel like a lot of us get so, because what we grew up in, so attached to an outcome or experience, whether it's with somebody else or not, because we want it to be a certain way. That doesn't mean people don't love you. It doesn't mean that they don't care. This is bigger. It's about alignment. This is about value. And that's why I can feel what happens in a lot of family dynamics. It's like, you can have people who love each other. You can have people who care. Is my nose running again? I have to get something. But the bigger picture from all of it, again, is alignment. And that's more important than anything. When it comes to well-being, that's how I realize how a lot of why certain things couldn't pan out with me and a lot of people is because value system. That's most likely going to be one of the biggest things when you are going through life and trying to transition. Sinuses. Oh my gosh. This brings back me to, again, even the fact of what can be unfolding where certain scenarios will even prepare you for what you're going through. It'll show you where people's intentions are, but it also refocus your attention towards your well-being. Even if you're not doing something, I'm going to show you something that has been revealed to me. Woo. I be feeling so much better. Sometimes and right now what I'm going through is a part of a letting go. I always go through these moments. For me, it seems like when I'm, let's say, fighting off spiritual warfare, or when I'm navigating that pressure, when I'm navigating through somebody in the movie Get Out. When I'm navigating through something, I realize like I'll be called to just revert back to myself to see something clear about me, about where people's intentions are, no matter if your well-being is a priority, because if their well-being is a priority, sometimes their rebuttal or even their actions will show you the depths of how your value system has changed. That meaning, like, when someone asking you, hey, how you doing? Are you okay? You know, simple things to where as your value system changes, these are things that are more of a priority. You know, you're more focused on, like I'll use experience somebody I know, like they were telling me how, you know, just this thing around mental health. You're going through something, you're still trying to process like what's going on. And that's another thing I'm getting into as well. It's like in that process of realizing what you were in that dysregulated your nervous system, I'm realizing like even with now having so much more time to myself or moments to myself and balancing that out, man, I get so irritated. It ain't even just irritated by people. It's just I'm learning that I realize what dysregulated my nervous system. I start to realize like, and these things can show up in your body. Like the more you sit with yourself, I'm noticing, I'm like, where is all these aches and pains? And this also can be a part of like what they call the ascension. Like, you know, just think about the mindset and the perspective of people who were dysregulated so much. They will always go, work, do so many things, and they don't realize over time, not only does this build blockages in the body or chronic illnesses, but those chronic illnesses will show up later in your body when you age. And people just assume like, this is why the spiritual well-being and the mental well-being, emotion and so forth is just as vital. because that unprocessed emotion, that prolonged grief begins to show up. I was sitting here thinking about things that I went through with people and how that shit comes up. And it can come up through dis-ease, discomfort. And that can come up in the body through mucus, come up in your body through certain things in your body. Because at a point in time when the emotional body or the mental and the spiritual aspect of who you were, all of that is one and the same of how you show up physically. So if rest is not a priority, then guess what will come later? Chronic disease, chronic illnesses. And so I'm realizing I'm having this opportunity, even with creating my arts and so forth, that I'm listening to myself more than ever. I'm going at my own pace. And I realize the opposition or whatever the opposite of that, I realize that people can be really angry at the fact of you going at your own pace. This is something I believe I talked about in many videos. Like, people will be so uncomfortable because of your free will. And I'm noticing that. How you just go about living and experiencing life. And so that also being said is, like, again, I know a brother that's going through an experience like that, to where let's just say their sister, you know, whatever she's going through, and I had to express him to that because his mom also told him that too. Like, people are going through their own internal battle, and whether it's related to a child, children, and so forth, a lot of it has, I'm telling him, like, bro, a lot of it really don't got nothing to do with you. But due to the fact of, again, trauma bonding, dysregulated nervous systems, growing up in environments where we are taught that family is everything and we have to just tolerate. But as you distance yourself, as you learn more about yourself, as you get deeper into your awareness, you start to realize, like, no, that's not necessarily true. Because you're putting everything that you need to prioritize, your well-being and so forth, aside to almost like validate or even like be this pillow, or how could I say, like the scapegoat, because eventually that's what it leads to. I realized, like, a lot of the dynamics that I was in and a part of my healing, I realized, like, a lot of these things start to reveal when there is problems in something. I realized how much this collapsing of foundations is centered around a lot of escapism and scapegoating. Scapegoating. That was hilarious. Because when people have an internal battle going on, they'll always feel like the person is the problem. And what that eventually reveals is that they really don't have a solution to their own problem. So in order to escape, and this is not always a problem, always the case, but I've noticed this, it's like a trend to where the pointing the finger, it's always someone else. You know, because they're here, because this and this, and really what it deeply reflects internally, that the person has not made peace or isn't willing. And what that is actually protecting you from, what I've noticed is that in the removal process, that which we're so naturally trying to attach and fight ourselves to hold on to, that actually be for divine protection. I even had to remind my brother that, I'm like, bro, you know, it's my soul brother. I'm like, yo, actually this is happening for the betterment. You know, that's happening for the big, like, see the forest from the trees, because most people can't. And what it is that a lot of it is, as you remove yourself, you allow people to be able to sit with their shit that's uncomfortable. Because, see, the beauty of that is that in that uncomfortability that they feel how you're being who you are, and them trying to escape externally through whatever it is you're doing, what ends up happening is that, again, it just shows that you don't have control, but also you're just preparing. You know what I'm saying? You're just preparing. Life is just preparing you for getting out of the way of people said karma or lessons, allowing them to sit with what it is that's uncomfortable. And what I've learned through this is that, even from experience, from not acknowledging what I had unresolved, is that you will blame or find yourself externally trying to mend something that someone hasn't mended or can't become at peace within themselves. So this is why, like, let's say you can walk away from a situation or be called, and it can seem, let's say, fearful, because let's just say people grow up so much around the codependency of people, of being, so attached to the idea like it has to be this way or else. And that personally came up for me when I was dealing with things where I didn't know how I was going to build stability, where I was going to go, what I was going to do. But in reality, all of these answers was within me. I've been doing it all along. It's just me, or the illusion, or even the warfare in believing, the resistance towards, why do I feel I'm not capable of something much better or worthy when I know that I've done the inner work? So that was a consistent thing for me to overcome, to go within and face, to realize, like, I can create a life without this. It happens all the time. Self-sufficiency, self-love, all of these things teach you, like, the more you sit with yourself, you realize how much people haven't. And so that protection is, instead of things, let's say, becoming toxic or chaotic, this is where a lot of, through human experiences, because of, again, through childhood development or through unhealthy attachments very young, is that we carry this mindset into, this codependency mindset into all of our relationships, businesses, and so forth. Like, we have this overly attachment. I remember I used to be like, experience that overly attachment to, to an experience or to a person and so forth, where there's so many possibilities, experiences that are awaiting pretty much your arrival, or you're stepping out in faith, or you're stepping into your power. And through what I realized is that when I was telling my bro, I'm like, bro, this is actually preparing you for what you said you wanted years ago. We used to have discussions like this all the time. How I used to tell them, like, men, everybody actually, but men, I'm just speaking on men because of my experience, have to have, an elder told me years ago, like, men need to have their own, like, kingdom or house or certain things. It's specifically because, there's a balance between, and not this way of abuse of power, like how people use things to hold over people's heads, and as soon as they don't like something, they want to, blast them and put them out and so forth. And again, a lot of these patterns come from unhealthy attachments, or learned behavior patterns, where, some people have, mothers who, when you get 18 and, you got to get out, or, all these different things around. What they don't realize is, like, what happens is, and this is one thing I had to accept or even deal with personally, that inability to become self-sufficient, that inability to be secure within self emotionally, mentally, and so forth, like, that carries on into the physical, that stems from those broken, or even the removal of said father, and or never seen nothing stable very young. So that created learned behavior patterns of being codependent to the very unhealthy people who knowingly, narcissistically, knew that they had some type of power and control over a said situation, especially if you're young and even into adult age. That's why I can see how a lot of these things, this shift in the climate, has a lot of people returning, like this Jupiter and Cancer, or these energies have people returning to the very root of their family dynamics. But what's surfacing is what can no longer be hidden. And the root of it is that which was hidden, whether emotionally, mentally, ancestrally, generationally, is for a greater picture, a greater cause. Only the ones who are willing to step into their power, to step into their sovereignty, to step into their free will, and build through integrity, through consistency, something more greater than what was fucking familiar. For instance, it's like it wouldn't make sense if I had this vision or dream, seeing the collapse of knowing that I know it's going to happen, but also having this mindset and plan to where, you know what? Maybe it's meant for young men like me or men who I realized the inner child in me who was never embraced, accepted, the abandonment issues that I dealt with is connected to the learned behavior patterns or the unhealthy attachments that I had. And now coming to the self-realization, these outcomes are what they were because of the fact of not just only my actions unconsciously, but the subconscious deep programming of what I assumed that was natural, what I assumed that was okay. So now to this self-realization at a 36, my bro, I think he's like 35 or whatever, 34, 35. But I'm expressing to him like, a lot of our attachment to the idea of a woman has been so rooted in nothing that was really stable or secure. And it's not always through manipulation. It's just been through the manipulation of energy or the unsurety or uncertainty of a stable root chakra. A person that isn't stable within themselves emotionally and so forth. So therefore, a lot of these experiences that whether you deal with the mother of your children or with the women in your family and so forth, a lot of these things are being like purposely exposed around a situation because from experience, I realized the depths of it is that a lot of the disrespect showed that the individual, what I experienced with women is like the lack of self-respect that they had. Their self-respect or the respect that society or people never upheld for women in itself. When you talk about an experience, when you talk about foundations, this is why it's so easily for, shout out Love Dorsey, where she mentioned like, and this is something I came into clarity with, is where how, and this is not singling women out, it's just the manipulation of energy, it's just the experience around I had to see something that was beautiful. It's just the experience around how I've had to have a lot of grace for that perspective that I grew up in, like that little version of me, because it not having it all together, you realize like how that affects the outcome of so much more. So again, when we're looking at the root of what has happened with the matriarchal and what's playing out patriarchally, this reflects us all. So, he was telling me how like he wasn't respected and so forth. I'm like, I can relate so much to that because, again, in the narrative of the wounded masculinity playing out through both men and women, but I'm recognizing even the fact of how that wounded femininity, that mother wound was playing out so much so to where you would think that this is what you're supposed to tolerate. But all of it's really reflecting is what has already prepared you for this moment from childhood. That comes from, again, mothers who have probably either dealt with men who didn't respect them or even they didn't respect themselves, and they're literally probably coming from a lower nature where you have women who have been, whether they were abusive or not or grew up in something, you still could have had women that had a two-parent home, or whether they did or not, they still develop a mindset. They still develop almost like guidelines and rules to a blueprint, basically, of how they're supposed to treat men. And this is how, even just assuming the fact of where there isn't a balance or women are there naturally will come, because that's the thing I'm noticing with so many things where even if a father's not there or a mother's not there, there are different attributes or certain parts of the archetype, whether feminine or masculine, that they never witnessed. So my bro, I'm telling him, I'm like, a lot of what you going through ain't got nothing to do with you, bro. What she's going through ain't got nothing to do with you. Now, the mother's there in the experience, but it's so much of, again, what I can relate to from my experience, where having, and it's not blaming, it's just having women who really never respected themselves, and that wounded femininity plays out through their actions, through their wounded masculinity. And when you're talking about a shift and no longer being scapegoated, he's being presented with the opportunity to build a foundation. So all of this shit is divine timing. We're being presented with to build foundations upon authenticity, integrity, truth for self, honesty, love. That comes with a part of value system and self-reflecting. I'm trying to get into this. That's what this is like literally revealing. Again, for me, you know, I can hear the similarities. He was like, yeah, man, but my mom, you know, her health, or, you know, I want to be near my mom. In that statement alone, I can recognize the fact of the mother wound, which he's not really familiar of. But this is what happens collectively, or has happened, or playing out through a lot of the younger men and men that you see today. They can gain material things. They can have all these different things, but they still have an internal battle with the fact of how their relationships are never stable. They can have all the accolades. They can have all these things. They can still mask it behind relationships. And these are the patterns that are also playing out in public, or even in celebrity culture, all this shit. Because it all still reflects wounded masculinity. It all still reflects wounded femininity. Because it's not rooted in authenticity. Everything that they're putting out there, everything that is being exposed, it has to be exposed to bring that which is hidden, has to show up within us and then outwardly to be revealed, while a lot of us are coming into the recalibration or restabilizing what the matriarchal and patriarchal actually is. That's the rise of the divine feminine and masculine, however you want to perceive it. That's what the rise is. It's rising up out of you to purify yourself. That uncomfortability. Some people actually never break free of this shit. That's what being a generational cycle and curse breaker is, because it's challenging for a lot of people, especially when there are kids involved. And some people don't realize, like, it looks different for everyone. Everyone's going through something. Everyone's going through something. But it's an opportunity. What if I told you it's an opportunity to counter that which you was familiar with? It's literally an opportunity to be better, to choose different, to choose yourself. That's one of the greatest quests I ever been on in life. Is like, I'm realizing, like, you will let people assume what they want. You let it all play out. Let their intentions be revealed. And that's okay. Not take it personal and just be like, you know what? You can grieve through it. Shout out to Love Dorsey. She said how we don't realize, like, we grieve people that are living more than people that are transition. And that's real. Because I wanted to hold on to the idea of people when I realized that reflection of them is a reflection of me. Where I used to be. How I used to be. This shit ain't, at a point in time I would never talk about this shit. I can acknowledge and say a lot of relations that I held on to had a lot to do with what reflected in me. Unhealthy attachments. Yes. And again, even from a father perspective, it's real, y'all. I don't have to sugarcoat stuff. It's not about so much about the other person. It's so much about, it's bigger than love, because everybody wants to throw the love word up. Okay. That doesn't mean that that person loves themselves as deep as you come to love yourself. And the beauty of that, this is not about being with someone specifically or, you know, marriage and all this stuff. This is about learning a deeper version of yourself. Satisfaction around that is realizing, how did I get into this? Do I want to ignore? Am I in denial or naive? Have I been naive about the fact of trying to carry this on with children or not, in a marriage or not, in a businessship or not? What am I ignoring about myself that's not going to eventually be revealed? It's not to knock people who have been in marriages or anything like that. It's the raw realness of the fact of a lot of people belief systems stem from tradition. When you create your own, a lot of stuff is being exposed to realize like this shit comes back down. Like a lot of us are being put in a position to choose our peace, to choose our sanity over, not even over. Well, yeah, I can be honest. It's stepping into your higher version of yourself or more stepping into a deeper, more version of yourself, or even protecting your inner child. That shit will come with the fact of a lot of you grieving over the fact of this family dynamic is not going to work. Only for you to recreate it in a different way. Now, she get to choose her piece, he get to choose his piece, or even through that, when you realize imparting, however you go about it, that's still a way of a lot of karmic relations or relationships bring forth balance. Whether you had kids or not, it literally brings forth one of you or both of you, if you're willing, with evolution, which I've always mentioned before, is like life is going to show you that through evolution, through evolving, through facing yourself, it will reveal where people aren't willing to grow with themselves. See, the beauty of, this is a great analogy. See, once you learn to water your garden or learn to counter that which was trying to keep you in stagnation or even feeling like you're stuck, you have to learn, like, the only way out is through. And even in that current situation or experience, you have to learn to have the courage to show up for yourself, no matter how uncomfortable it is for other people, because their intentions will be revealed. What's that saying? Like, let people show you what they want to do. Let people show you what they do, because basically they're showing you what they prefer and what they want to do. And all of it is just a clearing. Right now we're in the last deacon, or what they call it, like Pisces season. A lot of things is being revealed. Going back to my bro, I'm like, it's like people, again, that mindset around seeing the beauty of people pushing you out. It is, how many people can go past the fact of life is asking you to go beyond the fear of what was familiar. Me personally, growing up in environments where shit was so dysregulating or so dysfunctional and so forth like that, I have no shame and guilt around this consistency and persistence in I have my own. And it's more than just my own. It's that I've created this within myself. So I don't have to feel that I have to keep trying to escape to what's familiar. Real raw shit right now, like, even in relationships, even though the person may have been different, the environment, the state, the event, anything, the energy was still the same. And no matter how far I went, and no matter where I go, I was still, everything would go smooth, but I would still be met with learning what it was to be stable, reinventing emotional safety. And I had to go through those things, like what we call karmic. I had to go through those lessons with people. I would have never been here had I not gone through those very things I had to reevaluate my whole life. And a lot of you will have to do this, whether with children or not, whether around family or not. Life is going to call you to reevaluate your whole life, reinvent, reconstruct, rebuild. And that's the thing, how powerful the mind is. We didn't grow up. Shout out to Calvin Richardson, because he made a song called Vibe. That'll always be one of my favorite songs. And he said, once you put the mind first and the body last, everything will be all good. And it's so wow how people are ahead of their time, because it was basically like a song relating to if I'm like, how can I say this in a way, like dealing with things intimately. And think about a lot of us. We didn't grow up with the mind being first. And I'm gonna give it to you really raw as a man. From a man to women to whomever else, young, wherever you are. If you did not have foundation or blueprint where you listen to a person, how they spoke about others, how they spoke about themselves, and even through all of that, it will show their intentions. A lot of you in relationship, even if you have children, now you can recalibrate or reinvent what it is, like your foundations upon building something authentic and healthy. Yes, they will come through the uncomfortability of like, shit, I can't believe I went through this. You had to. I had to. Like, again, the growth in all of this now is realizing I knew what I was leading with, even if I wasn't like have more awareness around it. I knew what I was leading with. That downstairs, and it's just like a basement. I tell people, well, I give people this analogy. Where do you keep the most valuable things? And I know houses have changed, but it's like, do you keep the most valuable things in the basement where things can flood and get dirty, grow mold, or do you keep it in a drier space? You see, the reason of that is just, again, the analogy around the mindset. Even women. That's some people now I wouldn't ever, and that's just because of boundaries and how deep I met myself. I wouldn't ever, like, I'm realizing, like, what I deserve and the life I deserve, or just the worthiness. My value system has changed. 20, 15 years ago, whatever. No, I know what I was leading with. And every situation was literally self-sabotaging. It would show me patterns where I didn't know how to stabilize shit. Because the emotions are tied to the finances. Your emotions are tied to how you interact, exchange with people. Basically a belief system. Basically a value system. I'm not even going to hold that in. Let go. So, yeah. Authenticity. Anywho, they made me go back to one of my elders. She said, can you put shit back in your ass? No. So this is my thing about the letting things unfold and also letting go. Letting go, because a lot of things literally reflect, and that's the beauty of knowing that you're not stuck. That's where I feel like a lot of people mentally cannot get past, because they're so used to the same scenario playing out. And that was so challenging for me, because I realized when you're around the environment or even in the atmosphere of certain people, even what you feed yourself, so many different things, in your ability to learn to stand firm in who you are, you can never convince someone that you're at peace. You can never convince someone that you're stable. You can never convince anybody that you're anything. They don't have to believe it. They don't have to accept it. Even through certain relationships that I went in, I had to accept that I would not, in my way of saying I will never deal with people again, or they probably will never deal with me again. I'm okay with that. That's why I feel like the mirroring back to where learning to not take things personal. Or it's, when I say personal, it's like to take on things that you don't have to, whether that's mentally, emotionally, and so forth, because even though it may look familiar externally, in reality, doing the inner work or preparing yourself, like, you become naturally more private. You naturally become something that is unfamiliar to people, and what makes them uncomfortable. There's sometimes there's an expectancy there through human interaction or human experience, people expecting you to do the same thing, or believing that the same outcome will happen. That right there has shown me this is why I had to remove myself even from people. This is why I realized it's not so much outgrowing them. I just learned in that situation or dynamic or whatever it was, in my showing up for myself, I realized I was watering myself more than they did. Whew. Ooh, as I'm talking so much, ew, I hope y'all didn't see that. So much is coming out. This is raw, bro. But it, again, And that right there is a determining factor. And it will always show up. Ask me how, from my experience, masterpieces. Masterpieces that I've done. For instance, this is what happens when you, body. This is what happens when you master stuff. This masterpiece right here. That one right there. Now, to some people, that would take, some people, depending on how their experiences is, that would take them months, that would take them years. You know, everyone approaches things completely different. Woo. I'm telling you, wrong, bro. They would approach things completely different. See, and I'm telling you from raw and real shit. Whenever you have a vision or outcome, that shit has to be more personal than you caring about how people perceive you. That shit got to be more, your connection, y'all call it God, source, that shit got to, that's what I had to learn. That shit got to be more personal than anything. And then that, even if you using that God or something, it's just you. That experience has shown me the consistency and the integrity that I've had to have, even when people wanted to play God or control things. The more you pour into yourself, again, you will still see the intentions of other people will always be revealed. And that's the thing where I had to learn not to take personal anymore. Because even when people get what they want, even after, let's say, you're removed or certain things have changed, you will notice how the energy shifts in how either people watch you or how people want to, they want to change or they want to shift. Or it'll also reveal the identity that they never had. Like they had an identity around, like, how can I say this? Like in my process of creating, this is what I'm becoming. This is the becoming of how my art through transition has, there's life and death or rebirth. There's so many things that go on. And in that process, that's the magic around that shit. You're creating the life that you want. See, that's the thing about why our gifts are so beautiful, is that you think I'm just creating art. But it's a process of what I had to get through to go through there. I ain't holding on to nothing. It's a process of what I had to get through to go there. And that's the thing that people don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I don't ever feel shame and guilt around shit because I'm realizing that the spiritual warfare or a lot of shit in things is realizing, like, am I going to distract myself? Am I going to allow this person to be a distraction for what I need to create? And I was telling my bro the other day, I'm like, okay, when you get this new place or you have these things, y'all got to realize there's still, to whom is given, much is required. Whether that's finances, that's the beauty of the reward of doing the inner work. To whom is given, much is required. That's through everything. I can honestly say that I literally, if you want to use the word manifest or created, I created this reality in more of a sense of like the responsibility it took for me to step more into myself and step away from people or the energy that they was holding in regards to their mindset. Being in things where people didn't believe and it shows their value system or their worth as well. I had to learn that. Like, you don't feel like this masterpiece is this and more? Okay. And see, we'll take that personally. And it's okay to, but what are you going to do after that? You have to still show up for your fucking self. That's what doing my creation and everything is. It's like I had to learn to keep showing up for me. So what I've learned in certain dynamics, why they could not go or stand the test of time, well, not even just time, it's illusion, but more so like withstand the seasons and so forth, I start to recognize, like, hold on, first of all, in this person let me know what it really is, let me stop ignoring it. So with that, that goes into, again, as you transition and level up, however it is, that comes with privacy. That comes with the sacredness of protecting that gift. accessibility to you. Because if the divine made room for you to create, like me, create that, I'm also grateful for the experience. That's the beauty. The gratitude in the lesson, the gratitude in navigating that shit that didn't even matter about other people. At the same time, it's just like you reflect and be like, whoa. Do you ever reflect on life? Or how far you've come? And that'll determine the mindset and perspective of a lot of people. They seem stuck or they sitting in certain things is because that's the reality they created. That's what they want. That's what they feel that's all they have. And when you have a vision and being able to see the forest from the trees, that's what a visionary is. Some of us, it's not about giving up. We give in. And that's the thing about like giving in. That giving up is like surrenderance to, you know what? I'm going to just allow them to assume, make this. And basically, even through their interactions, they're just reminding me, prepare, get prepared, create, get prepared. Something you didn't see before 5, 6, 7 years ago, the energy's still playing out. We want to ignore it because we grew up around people who were so naive, who didn't have boundaries, who did not love themselves, who were not stable in their authenticity, in their integrity. So again, when I say their intentions are going to be revealed, it always is, because if your intentions were not just so pure, but if you knew that it was something bigger that was a calling upon your life, you have to give up. And that don't mean you have to give up those mindsets and those people. See, that energy that you're giving up is letting go of what seems like a burden or burdensome. You're giving up those people over to the divine, over to source, whatever. You're letting go. Here it is. I surrender. There's nothing I can do about this person. There's nothing I can do about this situation. That's what letting go is. Even me saying that shit, I felt that. It's like I'm giving up on, and again, it's how one perceives it. I'm giving up on this situation. I'm giving up. I let go. So I don't have to go through more suffering. I'm giving up. And with that, you get what you want. I think that's what so many people are so fucked up and confused by. It's like, I know the life that I wanted created, and I'm doing it. Some of the most, what you'll realize an unhealthy attachment is, you're not wrong, or you shouldn't guilt trip the fact of you want people to be a part of your experience, the doors that you walk through. But then you gotta tell yourself, like, a lot of people, or when you look at your value systems, as you pour and watered yourself, that's the analogy I want to go back to. You watered your flower more. You watered your garden more. This is where the secret competition, animosity, envy, and a lot of shit come in with people. They'll be upset and uncomfortable with your free will. And they don't realize the energy, the frequency, a lot of things have changed. This is why they can't understand. They're not willing to realize, like, this is why a lot of people won't be able to wish you well. They won't be able to clap for you on your way to whatever it is, not realizing in your bigger picture, your visionary, they're a part of that bigger picture. It's just right now, they can't even see that they're a part of it. But in their, like, let's say, even if you grew up in a trauma bonding environment or whatever it is, whatever you grew up in, like for me, for experience, I had to realize, like, had I not, telling you, I didn't even eat. I'm just letting go of stuff. Even if I did not have the mother, the father, and all these different things that I'm aware of, I would have never gotten to this awareness of, like, what it is I need to build. It's not going to happen overnight, but what it is that I need to stay consistent in. And with that comes with not going places anymore, experiencing certain people, not talking to them. A lot of things doesn't deserve a response, because I realize now, and through observation or just learning myself, is that that's something they're dealing with. And they'll get what they want, but in the divine timing. Say unhealthy attachments are how your ass trying to stay somewhere too long or be in an environment. And sometimes, like, I had to realize that was one of my biggest things. How are you going to stay or be somewhere and you don't realize, like, you've been wanting this. You've been wanting to be on your higher timeline or experience a different life or a journey and so forth. So now you're being presented with it. How that can be presented through your external world. You'll be scrolling, you'll see some shit. Oh, you'll get clarity. Oh, that's what it'll be reminders. But then you'll also get the counter of that, the opposition of that. Like, one thing for me is, like, I've gotten to a place like where what they call a doom strolling or something like that. I'm like, why is this showing up? Why is this showing up in my reality? Like, why is this shit showing up on my page or whatever it is? And what it is that I had to see within myself. This is how I'll tell you how I learned how I've overcome a lot of things, is that the desperation of the energy presenting itself of what you assume was familiar, but you have to know that you've gotten so much within yourself to know, like, that shit don't serve you no more. And you got to remind yourself of that. Because something wants to remind you, for a lot of you, that you're still that same version. You are that version, but you keep that version of you at bay. That's just like someone such as myself learning to walk away from situations where I grew up in combativeness, where I grew up in people who would handle things in a very reactive way, uncontrollable way. Let me tell you, there's no way in the fuck you gonna build some shit if you don't have no type of emotional stability. If you don't have, I don't care, that pertains to finances, material gain, everything. And then I had to also learn, it's like in that imposter syndrome, to where that goes back to self-worth. You are valuable. You deserve that and more. We want to convince ourselves that we have to have it with these people around them. And really what a lot of them are reflecting, if they grew up in insecure, things that were not stable, they're eventually going to mirror back the very energy that they're holding on to. Because they've held on to this narrative that it's all stable. This is how it's supposed to be. This is how it's supposed to be for them. That's what they feel. And then that's the thing about letting go. Giving up them. Let them have that. And then when they're distance and a lot of these things, again, like my growth in if you like learning more about the sacral chakra and sexual energy, a lot of stuff where I told you I went abstinent, a lot of this shit was showing me discipline effect of like, okay, not only do you go into what you want to call hermit mode, solitude, you still dealt with that shit. No matter how much you hide in the house, no matter how much you isolate yourself, people never talk about this. You still dealt with it in some way. You still gonna deal something. A person hit you up, you go on social media, whatever it is. Personally, that's what happened with me. I'm like, the corn addiction. Because am I pulling away to be like, you know what? I gotta discipline myself. So I'm not gonna do this, because it's not so much of just your goals that you're setting. It's showing you like, where did you not see your worth? And that's when you're leading with, if you want to call it lower nature, or just with sex, or how society has had, again, convinced our women, some of the people who have went through that they have to do that just to have something sustainable, then they wouldn't have never had children by people. Let's be real. Men too. You would have never had experiences, but that's the beauty in learning that. That's the beauty in growth. That's the beauty in the fact of people really, even in their solitude, that does not mean that they're doing the inner word. Y'all think because people go away, everybody not doing the inner word? Everybody not sitting with that uncomfortability, they still can be distracting themselves. If y'all, that masterpiece I just showed y'all, I think it's 38 by 36 by 48 or 48 by 60. Either way, years ago, it would have taken me longer. Matter of fact, one of the masterpieces that I did, I was traveling with someone doing that. Now I've gotten to a place where I'm more stable because I did that within myself. So a lot of shit is preparing you to just be more stabilized. You have to go through the uncomfortability. You have to go through hell, if you want to call it that. What happened to the phone? You have to go through, you have to go through those experiences to even realize, make sure that overheat. Is it? And see, that's the thing. I can attest to the fact that in the spiritual aspect, oh my gosh. How that looks spiritual is like coming from a lower nature to heaven. And that perception of that is like in a way of like fighting my own, if you want to call them demons, spiritual warfare, vices, and so forth. Learn behavior patterns. It's not about being perfect. It's that hell was an experience of realizing people were in hell mentally when I was growing up. Some of these, y'all realize some people literally in life, their mindset literally is hell. They literally been going through, they're literally experiencing hell, and that's the thing that they haven't elevated from. The heaviness and what they're carrying spiritually, ancestrally, generationally, and so forth. It's just like a tub filled with water. Let me give a greater analogy. It's like, that's the thing about emotions. You're filling up something and you never let it go. You never cry. You never purge. You never go through all those things that has been repressed. And so eventually, this is where you see again, as an individual, some of us, it takes for you to be that God in life. Because some people don't know how. They either don't know how, or let's say you had a mother or father where their mindset, their state of being, where they at, they're content. That's what they feel. And they'll be going through hell literally and want to pull you down. So a lot of people aren't aware of what they're experiencing. They actually normalize that this is okay. This is what I'm supposed to experience here on earth. And that's the evolution or the awakening or the enlightenment that y'all don't realize, or some of y'all start to realize, like, yo, the hell you've been in is the hell your mother was going through when she was pregnant with you. The hell she experienced before before your father, or your dad before your mother. Again, now you start to realize a lot of people are literally trying to navigate through hell. Meaning that we all going through something. We're trying to navigate through something. And a lot of my art creations, my craft, like, that's mastery. You know how fucking amazing that shit it's much more than just the money. That's energy. It's also, I met people who do art. I met people who do stuff and they don't even feel like they're worthy of obtaining things. I was there because they're so comfortable. They'll hoard their art. I saw a post on Marketplace. Somebody was like, they want to let go of stuff over 30 years. I said, 30 years? If anything about me with scorpionic energy or just energy in that, I will let go of some shit so fast. I also had to learn that in letting go of things, some things take a little longer because there's layers to it. Some things, yeah, we can just throw in the trash, but it's still layers, meaning like there's still some emotional things tied to that you have to unravel, that you have to purge. We can throw out stuff all the time. That's why I realize a lot of people don't want to move and relocate because they don't realize they're not meeting themselves to the depths. So with evolution, that's why partnership or new things can come in, because a lot of people aren't willing to elevate beyond what they feel is normal. That's why a lot of y'all are in dynamics or in relationships where you realizing like, oh my gosh, it's not so much you outgrown it, it's so much of like, you just watered yourself more. And the other person's intentions will be revealed because they'll have an uncomfortability around it. Why do you get to do this and I don't? So that ego arise, or that insecurity arise within them. Has nothing to do with you. Well, I have to do this and you have to do that. That's not fair. I'm taking care of everything and so forth. And people, like, again, everyone's experience is different. And see, this is because you don't know, I forgot that channel where that sister was talking about this. It's like, we don't know what partnership really is. We don't know. Partnership, I said before, reflects the fact of one person being able to, when you meet in someone, you don't know what stage of life that they're in. So it's unrealistic to tell a man or person, you have to have this in order to date me. That may be your standards. I'm not saying that. That's cool and all. But in human experience, there's no one that got it all together. My perspective is like, if I had to say this person has to have this for me, for one, value system, it may be different than yours. They're not going to come with the same value system. And a lot of the value system they're coming with is some shit that they learned. It's some shit that was programmed. It's a different perspective. It has nothing to do with integrity and so forth. That's why some of y'all come into alignment with, or not alignment, but get into karmic shit. We get into shit and your value system don't align at all. Then you have children or get married and so forth. You thinking that marriage is a value system. But then you don't know the backstory or the deeper connection to not just the paperwork, but the becoming one, as they say, entity, taxes. A lot of people don't know about that shit. I didn't know about it until I read about it, but then I was like, well, that is a partnership. That's a business. People never talked about it. They got so caught up in the glitz and glams of the ring and doing it for performance and having the biggest one and all like that. Again, no substance, no value, no authenticity, no nothing. So a lot of these things had to be revealed for us to reevaluate, recreate our lives, reinvent who we were, build a more integrative and honest approach around things. Come on, that's why so much being exposed around why people get married and so much, and then relationships and so. This shit literally reflects people's internal world. It literally has been. I'm not at all surprised at why certain relationships or connections did not stand the test of time, because I realized, like, in all of this, my value system changed. Someone may not value communication, but you do. So let's just think we were literally brought into something where even boundaries, we tell a person, oh, this, what is that video? Oh my God, it was so beautiful how she said, let's normalize, like in 2026, like letting someone know that I don't hate you, I'm not angry with you, but we reached this breaking point or reached this point in our life where I need to show up for me. I'm putting it in my own words too. It was something like, basically wishing the person well without conflict, without calling them out their name, without doing certain things to where, that saying goes, like, people never forget how you make them feel. That takes a lot of growth. We're so used to people, bro, the trauma bonding on social media and so forth, and we clapping for trauma bonds. Oh, such and such guy with this person. I'm like, bro, what the fuck is going on? Don't know it to be true. Don't care about privacy. And you're literally modeling and having your children watch people that when you look at their value system, they don't value privacy. Because a lot of them people like that, I can see the energy. They most likely were exposed to that shit young. And now you get paid to just do it more, to be misleading to the youth, to be misleading on a certain scale of things. Fuck out of here, bro. Y'all realize we navigating through so much. Where are the people or partners or people who don't have to tell social media that they're at peace, or not even just at peace, but have a wholesome relationship with themselves, then how that affects everybody else? You cannot control people. Let people show you what they want, because I'm telling you, all injustices always play out. That energy always comes back full circle. even in that, it's the growth and shit. That's what they'd rather do. Hey, I wish them well. But that's the beauty of, again, no matter how someone moves on and how things transpire in life, you're giving them an opportunity to sit with their shit. That'd be protection. I had to learn that. I was sitting here reflecting on certain things, even with people I'm pretty sure they can feel the same way too. But I had to realize, like, whoa. Had I not got out of that, or had I not walked away, had I not, man. And again, it's very vital to know in connections how you should water yourself. And then your partner, you know, the balance, the reciprocity in that. It's important for them to know that too. And people have to make time for that. Not make excuses. Because then what it is that when they make excuses, they'll blame their guilt and shame around that. They'll blame other people. And that's what we're literally coming out of. The hell mentally, spiritually, emotionally that our mothers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers, matriarchal and patriarchal, that they lived in. That's what being a cycle breaker is. A generational curse breaker is. If it brings me more peace or more harmony, and you know, heaven on earth is a real thing. That shit, heaven dwells within you. There's a duality, heaven and hell. But some people, you realize that they don't want to live in that bliss or that harmony. They don't feel like they're worthy of it. And that's what I had to learn, how even outgrowing connections, relationships, family dynamics, where it stems from, there's nobody that can convince me that some people are still living in that. There's nobody that can convince me otherwise. And you can't control it. And that's the thing where I recognize too, when people are in a state like that, they want to control so much. And then until they get to that place, I had to learn, like, you're not in control of anything. It's how you respond to what is being shown to you, what was given to you, and so forth. Again, generational curses are the things that were given to you in your womb, in the womb. Now you're living it out. In that gift, the duality, in the curse, there's a gift. It's like one and the same. Joy and pain, as they call it. Rest in power. Frankie Beverly Mays, Mays, I believe. Is it Frankie? I think it was Frankie. Yeah, Frankie Beverly. And that's the thing about, even through the joys of life, you still got to celebrate. With watering yourself, you also reveal how unhappy or where people place their happiness. When they make it, blaming is just showing you where people place their happiness. It's like I'm sitting here telling this person that they're this, they're that, this is what they did. And this is not always the case, but this is the clarity I've got. I'm like, so that's the thing why I tell you about scapegoating. Once you remove yourself from the equation, this forces people to find another solution. Codependency, like, literally is revealing where you're not showing up, where you're not dependent on yourself, or where you need to be more independent, interdependent, and independent. Not overly, but show up like the balance, because life is a balance. So I think that's all I want to say. I gotta drink some more tea because, I'm feeling this sun. It feels so good. But other than that, yeah, go at your own pace. That's, if you think about the old narrative of the old world, when divine intervention comes, it forces your ass to sit down. That's why I never felt shame of shelter experience. Never felt ashamed of how things were playing out, because it was forcing me to see a different perspective, but also what I was ignoring about myself, the relationship experiences with people. So many different experiences was just preparing me for this moment, to continue sharing, to continue being who I am, showing up for myself. I cannot control other people and their uncomfortability and how I show up for myself. You know, that's where the access becomes revoked or access denied, because, you know, I even tell my bro, I'm like, bro, having that place and getting these things, You don't gotta let people know where you live, where they're coming. That's just my perspective. I see how the world has been like. It doesn't value privacy. I've always made this vow to myself years ago, because being exposed so young to things, being exposed so yeah, when I was young to things that I didn't have to, was only preparing me now to you can say gatekeep, or like what's sacred to me now, what I have to protect or guard, you know. And yeah, look at your experience and realize like how this stuff is playing out, where you were exposed to, only now to have a different approach or perspective of like how now that's what boundaries are, like how now can I protect this. So y'all take care of yourself. Peace and blessings, shalom.